Starting in Barcelona, this trip will take us to 6 of the 7 largest islands in the Mediterranean, and also to Malta and the turquoise coast of Turkey. The Mediterranean is the cradle of Western civilization. These islands have played a strategic role in the birth of civilizations and empires. Before we dive into our island destinations, we need to get the big picture and some perspective on the role these islands played in history. As agriculture and domesticated animals moved from the Fertile Crescent, Stone Age settlements appeared starting 12,000 years ago. In the Bronze Age, around 2700 BCE, the Minoan civilization emerged on Crete with sophisticated art and architecture. Around 1400 BCE, as the Minoan civilization declined, the Mycenaeans replaced them. Around 1800 BCE, the Nuragic civilization came to dominate Sardinia. Around 1500 BCE, the Phoenicians developed seafaring technologies and the courage to venture beyond the sight of land. From their homeland in what is now Lebanon, they established trade routes and colonies throughout the Mediterranean. Around 1200 BCE, the Mycenaean civilization collapsed. In the 8th century BCE, the Greek city-states emerged. By the 5th century BCE, Greeks had established trade routes and colonies throughout the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. The city of Rome was founded in 750 BCE, and the Roman kingdom grew modestly for 250 years until the king was overthrown in favor of a republic. The Roman Republic conquered much of what is now Italy by 272 BCE. Over the next 100 years, they conquered Carthage and most of the rest of the Mediterranean. The Roman Empire was established in 27 BCE and extended the Roman dominance to Britain, Gaul, and Egypt and the Middle East. In 117, the Roman Empire was at its greatest territorial extent, but beginning in 235, there were revolts in the outer reaches of the empire and destructive civil wars within. In 395, the remaining empire was split into a western and eastern half. The Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 and went on to capture the Iberian Peninsula, which they held for 300 years. The Vandals captured Carthage in 439 and established a kingdom that included our destinations of Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, Malta, the Balearic Islands, and held them for 100 years. By 555, the Eastern Roman Empire, now called the Byzantine Empire, was able to conquer what is now Italy and to displace the Vandals from North Africa and the islands of the Mediterranean. By 650, the Byzantine Empire is losing control of Italy to the Lombards and the Balkans to the Slavs, and Constantinople is under siege. A new empire is rising in the east, the Arab Caliphate. By 650, from its base on the Arabian Peninsula, it's captured the Holy Lands and Egypt. By 750, the Arabs controlled all of North Africa and most of the Iberian Peninsula. The Byzantines had lost more ground on the Italian Peninsula and the Balkans. By 900, the Arabs controlled the strategic islands of the Mediterranean. In 1095, with Arab armies on all fronts, Pope Urban II called for a Holy Crusade to stop advances and to guarantee pilgrims access to the Holy Lands. The Crusaders established 4 Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, by 1099. Edessa fell in 1144, and Jerusalem fell to Saladin in 1187, and the Third Crusade failed to recapture the city. The Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople and marked the end of the Byzantine Empire. 5 more crusades were undertaken, all ending in defeat. The last of the Crusader states fell in 1291. The Emirate of Cordoba ruled the Iberian Peninsula from 929 to 1031, when it was fractured into several independent Muslim kingdoms, which gradually fell to Christian armies in the 13th century. The Crown of Aragon ruled eastern Spain, the Balearic Islands, Corsica, Sardinia, Malta, and southern Italy by 1442. In 1469, Ferdinand of Aragon married Isabella of Castile, creating a unified Spain. In 1492, the Emirate of Granada, the last Muslim territory on the Iberian Peninsula, fell. The Ottomans saw themselves as heirs to the Islamic Caliphate. By 1389, they established themselves in Anatolia and the Balkans. By 1481, they had expanded around the Black and the Aegean Seas. Expansion continued around the Maghreb by 1590. It wasn't until the 19th century that the Ottoman Empire started to shrink. Greece became independent in 1830. In 1878, the Russo-Turkish War ended and the Ottomans lost Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro. In 1882, the United Kingdom seized control of Egypt. The Ottomans sided with Germany and Austria in World War I, and the victorious Allies dismembered what was left. And from there, the modern Turkey emerged. Wars between various factions in Europe had become the norm in the 15th and 17th centuries, but the Napoleonic Wars raised the bar to new heights. They were the first wars fought on a global scale, with British navies attacking French colonies worldwide. Let's look at how all this affects our destinations. Spain went to war with France in 1793 and made peace in 1795. But in 1807, the French invaded Spain and forced the Spanish king to abdicate in favor of Napoleon's brother Joseph. King Ferdinand VII returned to the throne in 1814. The British captured Minorca, the smallest of the Balearic Islands, in 1798 and maintained a naval presence until the end of the war. Corsica was under Genoese rule from 1284 to 1755, when the Corsican Republic was founded. In 1768, Genoa ceded Corsica to France, and the French invaded in 1769. The British occupied the island briefly from 1794 to 96. Corsica has been a department of France since. Sardinia was ruled by the House of Savoy from 1718 to 1848. They repelled the French in 1793. In 1861, the rulers renamed their kingdom the Kingdom of Italy, making Sardinia the precursor of the modern Italian state. Sicily was ruled by the House of Bourbon from 1734 to 1816. King Ferdinand ruled the dual kingdoms of Sicily and Naples. When the French captured Naples in 1799, the king fled to Sicily. At the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the kingdom was restored as the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. In 1860, it became part of the Kingdom of Italy. Malta was ruled by the Order of St. John of Jerusalem from 1530 to 1798, when the French invaded the island. The Maltese, with help from Britain, ousted the French in 1800, and the island became British protectorate and then a colony until its independence in 1964. Crete was part of the Ottoman Empire from 1669 to 1898. Starting in 1821, the Greek independence movement gained support with the Greek people and internationally. With help from the great powers, Crete declared independence in 1898, and in 1908 it became part of Greece. Cyprus was part of the Ottoman Empire from 1570 to 1878. In the aftermath of the Russo-Turkish War, the British Empire took over administration of the island. After World War I, the British Empire annexed Cyprus, and in 1925 it became a crown colony. Cyprus became independent in 1960. I hope you're still with me. This history stuff is complicated, but important to understand what we're about to see.